Thames Coromandel District Council meeting was the 26th of July 2022. So it's great to see you all here. For those of you that could make it, we do have some considerable storm damage. The road is closed at Kōpū, multiple splits. Waves Road at Whitianga, it's closed because of flooding. Hikuai flooding has closed the road. Coromandel at Tairua-Pāuanui is closed due to slips. Kōpū, Whanakaho closed with a slip blocking both sides, and their Whitianga multiple slips. So that just gives you an idea of what everybody's contending with on the eastern seaboard. They're pretty much locked in for a period. So we just thank all those people that are getting out there and working on getting the roads cleared. So first item of order of the business is apologies. Are there any apologies? I don't believe there are any because we have all of the remaining 5 councillors online. So there being none, any conflicts of interest? There being none, any items not on the agenda?
Hopefully later.
Through the chair, we've sent through the supplementary report on
Kōpū, which will be a discussion later in the meeting. Thank you. So we can put that as a later item. Is that what?
No, it's actually a supplementary, but I thought we'd just acknowledge that.
Okay. Thank you.
We've also got that as part of the agenda.
Thank you. So the first order of the business is the hearing of submissions on the draft Maritime Facilities Bylaw. And do we have any submissions on that?
Through the chair, we had one submitted that was granted speak, but has now declined. So
Right,
it's
okay.
just to do the report.
Okay, thank you. So we move to page 2, which is the suggested resolution to receive the hearing on the draft Maritime Facilities Bylaw. The Turi Mōna Tauranga Waka report dated 9th of August 2022 receives the submissions and receives the late submission made. Do I have a mover?
Yes.
Robin, do I have a seconder? Sally? Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against, carried. Thank you, everybody. So now we go to 2.2 on page 14, which is the hearing of submissions to the draft Tairua-Pāuanui Reserves management plan. And we'll look at that resolution after we've heard the submissions. Or do we need to do that first?
No,
We'll do the hearings first.
Yeah.
And so the first submitter is Eric Hamilton. So you're with us today, so well done. How did you get through it?
We listened to you.
Eric, welcome to the meeting, and that's submission on page 69.
When you wish to speak.
Would you like to take a seat at the front, please, Eric?
There are these people looking at my back.
Well, if you want to sit to the side, you can. Oh, it's you. Hello. My apologies, I didn't recognise from behind the mask.
Kia ora, I'm Eric Hamilton, a resident of Thames for the last 22 years. I have a background in parks and reserves, having worked in the industry in both field ranger roles and reserve planning roles over 40 years. I've been for over 10 years an accredited recreation professional with Recreation Aotearoa, and I work as a senior consultant with a specialised parks and recreation consultancy firm based throughout New Zealand, with colleagues also in Australia and Canada. I wish to speak to parts of my submission on the current draft plan. Trees. Many of the reserves across Pāuanui have a range of large trees planted 40 to 80 years ago. Many of these trees are coming to the end of their life and will over the next 20 years need to be removed as they become a hazard to reserve users and adjacent properties. I'm aware, as will be council park management and field staff, that older established park trees have fallen and killed people recently in Cambridge, And there has also been people killed by falling trees on private land in Invercargill earlier this year. We know the benefits of trees: shade, shelter, landscape amenity, providing places for rest, relaxation and wellbeing, plus the benefits that trees bring to the environment. In the draft plan section of neighbourhood reserves, there's the management action of continue to manage existing trees and undertake succession plantings in keeping with the tree theme that is associated with the Pāuanui area. This management action is only detailed for one reserve, Beaumont Green. I request that this management action be added to each of the following reserves, including Ajax Head, Kilmsford Court, Dunlop Green, Gallagher Park, Gibbon Grove, Kennedy Park, Ocean Beach, Pāuanui Surf Club Reserve, Pleasant Point, Royal Billy Point, Tikaraka Reserves, or the medium to large size reserves in Pāuanui. We're also aware of the wishes of some property owners who would like to enhance their views from their property, and they'd like to see many trees removed. And that has led to a range of trees being illegally poisoned, cut, pruned and damaged. And all our council park officers go to a large amount of effort to try to protect these trees to ensure their survival. So the current TCDC General Policies document is silent on the issue of vandalised trees. And I'd like to propose another management action for all the above reserves where large trees are present that details. Where trees are poisoned, cut, vandalised, council may undertake a range of actions, including the placement of structures to support the establishment of replacement trees in these locations. There are some good examples around New Zealand and Australia where shipping containers, large fences or large billboards have been placed, often advertising that trees were illegally killed. They stayed until the replacement tree matures. I also request a new management action to be added for Kōpū Park Domain. In 2006, I was involved in a review of the management plan for Tairua-Pāuanui, which was adopted in late 2007. At that time, there was a group of local residents and families who wished to see a skate park developed for local children, youths and adults of the Tairua area. The nearest skate park was, and still is, located in Pāuanui, 24 kilometres away. One of these residents, Ian Brown, a local builder and skateboard enthusiast, had been driving this project for over 10 years. He had looked at all suitable locations around Tairua and identifying that Kōpū Park Domain had a space for a skate facility to be built. It was central, was not hidden away in some back corner of the town, and therefore there was good surveillance of people using the facility. Plus there was space to develop a small to moderate sized skate facility and add in some other playground structures. The rugby club wanted to extend their building to have more indoor seating, plus have additional lighting for nighttime practices on the grounds. And also the St John Ambulance Station were wanting a larger facility on part of this reserve. So the skate park and play facility development was put into a concept plan for public consultation. Knowing that this would generate a large amount of submissions, an independent hearing commissioner was brought on board by council to hear submissions and make decisions based on balancing recreation activities and conservation outcomes across the reserves. Over 200 submissions were received on this issue, and the hearing Commissioner Russell DeLuca made a value judgment that recreation opportunities for local residents should not be curtailed or restrained by batch property owners who do not reside in Tairua Township full time. So an outcome of this hearing was that the skate park youth play facility was adopted to be part of the development of Kōpū Park Domain. Sadly, Ian Brown passed away in 2010. The St John Ambulance Service have a new facility on part of the reserve. New lighting was installed by the rugby club for nighttime practices, and the playground section of this area was built. The skate park development got stalled by opposing adjacent batch beach house owners who didn't want a skate park near them. Needless to say, the cities where they come from, their local councils provide a range of skate park opportunities for their children to use. Another review of the reserve management plan for Tairua-Pāuanui was undertaken by council in 2014. In the proposed development section for Kōpū Park Domain, the development of a skate park was removed and replaced with the development of a multi-purpose facility to accommodate community use, sports and recreation. Here we are now in 2022. It's been over 30 years since the local children and youth and skate-loving adults wanted a skate park facility for those who reside in Tairua. Council has undertaken more consultation on the placement of a skate park facility for Tairua. The rugby club has not had a senior team for the last 2 seasons since 2020, although junior rugby and football is played on the sports field area. And in this time, over 2 generations of young people have grown up in Tairua with limited access to skate park facilities. In your current draft plan, Koi Park Domain is the one and only sport recreation managed reserve for the Tairua-Pāuanui area. So my request is that you add a new management action for the Koi Park Domain section of this plan, stating that develop a skate park facility for the residents of Tairua and any visitors. The young people of today deserve opportunities, not restricted by old NIMBY people who want peace and quiet. So give the children and residents of Tairua the development of a skate park. Remember that the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I know that noticed the emphasis that in your submission for many reserves on the planting of trees and replacing wilding pines, particularly in Pāuanui with more suitable trees. So that's to be commended. Don't really have a question. Are there any questions from anyone for Eric?
Yes, I do.
Who was that?
Gary?
Gary.
Yes, with your expertise, it's Gary Gottlieb, councillor for Southeastern, Ward. Did you have a chance to read the agenda for our meeting at all, relating to other matters?
No, I haven't seen
Yeah, because there's freedom camping is coming up in our agenda. Well, perhaps I could ask you one question with your senior in this business. Has the government come forward with anything on their proposals for freedom camping?
I'm sorry, I can't comment on that because each council takes a different stance on freedom camping.
No, I realise that, but the government is meant to be coming out. You haven't heard if they have or not.
No.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. My apologies for not recognising you behind the mask. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you. I'm now by Joyce Birdsall coming by Zoom.
That's correct.
Joyce, are you available? Coming in via Zoom. There she is.
I am. Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Ariana for organising us to do our presentations by Zoom, because we certainly wouldn't have been getting out over the road from Tairua this morning.
Page 42.
I'm speaking on behalf of Guardians of Kōpū Bay. We are an environmental organisation that's been active in Tairua for the last 20 years. And our focus has been mostly on the Tairua estuary. And so our submission relates to those reserves that border the estuary. But one of the things I really was a bit concerned about was actually just the way this plan has been developed. It seems very much to me like a desktop exercise that hasn't really come across
Joyce, Joyce, we're having trouble hearing you. Hello?
Hi, is that better?
Much
Yes,
better.
Much better.
Let's move a bit closer to the screen.
Thank you.
Right. My concern is about the layout and the lack of any real work plan or direction in the reserve management plan. There's no aspirations or thoughts of how the reserves will be maintained in any of or in most of the reserves. your website says that reserve management plans provide direction for the day-to-day management of reserves, factors that impact on those reserves, and establishes clear directions for future management and development where appropriate. Now that brief is just not covered in this reserve management plan. It's more of a catalogue of reserves with no real planning about what is going to happen for any of those reserves. We also found the layout very frustrating, particularly as all of the reserves for Pāuanui and Tairua have been muddled in together under the categories or under the reserve categories, and this made it very difficult to find any of the reserves we wanted to have a look at without having to go constantly back to the index. Tairua and Pāuanui, although we share a community board, we're separate townships, and to have the reserves all listed together, this just makes it very difficult to follow. I'd like to see us go back to the way the reserve management plan was set out previously, with an alphabetical listing of the reserves for those towns separately. It would make it so much easier. Just in terms of the individual reserves we submitted on, I was very pleased to see that some recognition has been given to the Kōpū trees on and adjacent to the Tangi Moana Reserve. Would have liked to see this to go on further so that it included the tree Tangi Moana, which is actually on road reserve into the reserve, so that that tree will continue to be protected. We've also submitted on the status of a couple of areas down by the marina where some reserve land or some of the land that was claimed by the marina development has not been included in the reserves. And that was part of the Environment Court decision that land that was reclaimed would be vested in council and used as a picnic and recreational reserve. Now, it doesn't appear that that's happened, or else it hasn't been included in the reserve. We also had some concerns about the Esplanade Beach area, which for many, many years has been used as a swimming area and picnic area by a lot of young families. And that area is apparently road reserve. We'd like to see that included in the reserve so that that has continued protection. It is really very important that the area around that picnic area is not allowed to be covered with boat trailer parking, because young parents need to be able to get all the gear that children need with them down to the beach and be close to their cars. Whereas unless there's some protection for that area, they'll have to walk miles with all the gear that kids have. So I'd like to see that moved back and moved into reserve rather than road reserve. It's not ever going to be able to be used as a road. It's just it slopes down from the road, but we don't want it to be taken over. So those are the only odd comments I really wanted to make today, aside from what's in my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Appreciate that. Are there any questions of Joyce?
Yes, I have one.
Gary?
Yeah. I've got bits of paper all over the place here. Just bear with me 1 second. Sorry, which page do you start? Because I've got markers everywhere.
42.
42, right? Okay.
And we're not asking questions about freedom camping, the bylaw coming up.
Well, you talk about Tangi Moana Esplanade and safeguards for that. You may well be having to consider whether you consider freedom camping suitable for there in the future, because there's going to be consultation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that your question, Gary?
That is my question.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of Joyce? There being none, appreciate your submission, Joyce, which was very comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll invite Cheryl Lamb on behalf of Walk Tairua. Cheryl,
Terry
welcome, Cheryl.
is sharing my computer, so I'm just going to move over and let her in here.
Page 46. This is largely in relation to a purity in a reserve, which is estimated to be 300 to 350 years old. I'm just filling in the time while Cheryl gets her computer up and running.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Thank you, Cheryl. Cheerio, I beg your pardon.
Yes, and I'm with the Walk Tairua group. And I hope you noticed on your paperwork there that Walk Tairua has the heading, Tairua, the town of many walks. I was disappointed when I realised that I had drafted a rather damning report, but I stand by it, especially as the group of women who were the Parks and Reserves group, certainly quite some years ago, had put a lot of effort into getting old tracks upgraded, installing information panels, developing North Beach as a picnic area, and clearing areas such as Mary Beach and other beneficial work. For example, the big information board in the middle of town. So it was disappointing to see so many of those little areas being neglected. Since writing the submission, I am aware of the clearing of the steps beside the pipeline from Parkley Drive to Kōpū Terrace that makes that linkage much safer to use. Thank you. Kōpū Terrace's potential as a quiet place remains a very neglected place, and those were two I highlighted in my submission. In future, if maps are to be included in the publication, please present them so that they can be read. Yes, you'll lose lots of blank space, but what's the purpose of all that blank space in the publication? I also note that overall, Tairua has taken it to task from various organisations over the neglect and lack of planning and lack of maintenance in many areas of our dear little town. Is this because of lack of staff, funds, planning, or all three? I repeat what I said in my submission. You can do a lot better than this on paper and on the ground. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cherry. We'll just invite any questions. Are there any questions of Cherry? There being none, thank you, Cherry. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
So we now invite Kate Mason, page 25.
Kia ora, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Kate. Nice and
Great.
clear.
Great, thank you. Kia ora, my name is Kate Mason and I'm a health promoter at the Waikatoa Plenty Cancer Society. We work within our community to reduce the incidence and impact of cancer through prevention, raising awareness of the need for early detection, research, advocacy, and providing support. So thank you for allowing me to speak today. This is particularly important for our organisation as we service the beautiful Coromandel area and have a supportive care nurse who assists individuals with cancer within the community. My submission today focuses on the need for sun-smart and smoke-free play spaces. We are aware that we are only one organisation in a complex environment and need the support of council, local organisations and the community to achieve our goal of improved health and wellbeing of New Zealanders. My hope is that during the submission, you will hear how through working together and using a health impact lens, we can make a real difference to the burden caused by smoking and overexposure to ultraviolet radiation in our community. Many of you have probably heard our SunSmart slogan, slip, slop, slap and wrap. What you may not know is that shade or slip into shade, whether that be natural or built, is one of the most effective ways to prevent skin cancer within our community. Thames Coromandel District Council plays a crucial role in developing our physical and social environments, our public spaces, our recreation spaces, and sports facilities and community events. A recent evaluation showed that TCDC has just 16% of activity areas with at least some shade cover. And there were 247 registrations of melanoma, which is only one type of skin cancer, in the region in 2018. The Local Government Act 2002 highlights the need for a healthy and safe environment, and it is clear that the Tairua-Pāuanui area could benefit from an increased provision of shade to help minimise the impact of ultraviolet radiation and thus reduce the impact of skin cancer in the community. Implementing more shady play spaces shows that the council demonstrates a commitment to health and safety and that there is an investment in the health of the community. For the community, it means increased comfort and more attractive and healthier environments for all to enjoy. This is important so that the community can enjoy the outdoor spaces, engage in physical activity and play, while not putting themselves at risk of developing skin cancers by doing so. With the Coromandel being a popular spot over the summer months, no doubt it will also encourage young families to visit, knowing that they can play outdoors while not putting their tamariki's health at risk. When considering Council's role in supporting a healthy and safe environment for the community, it is important to mention the harmful toll that tobacco continues to take on the health of our community, and the role that Council could have in enabling children to enjoy play spaces without being exposed to secondhand smoke. I encourage Thames Coromandel District Council to do more to support people trying to stop smoking and make young people less likely to start smoking. Making playgrounds and play spaces smoke-free and vape-free with appropriate signage is one way that Council can significantly support a reduction in tobacco-related harm within the community. I also encourage Thames Coromandel District Council to consider implementing more water fountains to promote better access to safe drinking water, as well as developing cultural play spaces to support tamariki's engagement with Māori traditions and history. As our population grows, so should the green spaces and the accessible, family-friendly places that allow people to be sun-smart and free from exposure to secondhand tobacco smoke. This is vital if we want to reduce the incidence and impact of cancer in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kate, so are there any questions of Kate? There being none, your suggestion of trees for shade is being well canvassed by other submitters as well, Kate, so thank you very much indeed.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Now invite Ben Grubb and I'll take, pardon?
No, through the chair that they
Not
are
doing
running
teams.
growth closures and they're not doing teams.
Not doing teams, so Mark, reschedule. Christine Hedley, reschedule.
Yeah.
So the last three submitters are going to be have to be rescheduled. So I'd just like to thank everybody, and we'll now move to the resolution, which is 2.2 on page 14. And that is that we received the hearing of submissions to the draft Tairua-Pāuanui Reserves Management Plan report dated 3rd of June 2022, and we received the submissions made to the draft Tairua-Pāuanui Reserves Management Plan. So it has to be the ones received today, and as you're aware, we'll have to do the others in another time. So do I have a mover for the resolution?
I'll move that way.
Thank you very much, Terry.
I'll second.
Seconded Sally. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much indeed. So we're moving on to 2.3, which is freedom camping and the draft new bylaw and statement of proposal for public consultation. Thank goodness. So I'm delighted that, so that's on page 97. Do I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Mover after, seconder? Do I have a seconder? Then I'll second it because I'm really right into the fact that we need to be going out to public consultation on this. And I think there's a lot more awareness now of what the impact and what this means for our many communities around the peninsula. And they're now taking much more active interest in those impacts and potential changes they'd like to make. So is there any further discussion on the resolution?
Yeah,
Gary.
I'd like to ask a question, which I have got hold of Bruce Hinson, but he's not well, but he did say the planning team would get back to me on it. Could you, the government is waiting to come up with legislation on this. What progress has there been made in regard to this? Because we really need to mirror what is in fact the situation with them.
Thank you, Gary. Sean?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Welcome Sean Smith, who is the strategic planning lead for this. And Sean, would you like to
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, thank you, Councillor, for the question. There has been no progress on the government's proposed amendments to the Freedom Camping Act. They haven't introduced a bill to the House as yet. They had originally said it would be in the first quarter of this year. Obviously, that's passed and that hasn't happened. And there's been no updates from the ministry from that time. So we're still waiting. Obviously, if the legislation is introduced while we're going through this process, the next report that we bring back to the council will cover that information and what impact it may or may not have.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Any other?
Yeah, I've got a question if I can.
Terry, then Martin.
Yeah, our questions is around Pleasant, the boating ramp in Pauanui. In the actual draft, there is 3, I think, freedom camping sites there. There's a very strong move to take freedom camping out of that area with the new boat launching and parking fee coming into.
Terry, that will be part of a submission.
I thought that went into the draft plan going out to consultation would be better there than having to just go through submissions to take it out later.
I don't know that we can actually modify it. So Terry's asking that we modify the draft plan now before we go to public consultation.
Yep. Certainly, that's up to members. What you have in the report is the staff recommendation based on the assessment that we've done, and the report explains the basis for that assessment and how we've allocated the scores. Right. If members feel that the staff assessment is not correct and that a different approach is appropriate for any specific site that's been assessed, Pleasant Point, I think, was the one that was mentioned here. Then members are free to make a different decision than what the staff have recommended. Yeah.
Yes, I'd certainly like to, because I've had strong communication from the people in Pauanui around this, and this area will be taken up with boat parking trailers everywhere, and there'll be no room for a freedom camping, I would imagine, and it would be quite a difficult situation. So if it could be excluded now, it would be better.
Terry, so currently it's identified as a freedom camping site, right?
Yes.
Okay. We can't just go and take it out just like that. We actually have to have a decent rationale based upon the criteria in the Freedom Camping Act on which to do that. We can't just do it like that because
Well, I'm putting up the reasons for doing that. The reasons are that we've changed our new rules around boat launching and parking And
Yeah.
this ramp will now be used
We
exclusively.
don't have anything in writing in terms of a report to go with what you're saying to justify us making that decision right now ad hoc to change this document for public consultation. That would need to be part of your submission from the community board to the council to take into
So that's
account all
where our
those factors,
too, really.
and the criteria have to be in line
So
with
that's
what's in the
where our possible
legislation.
changes fix that.
So we can't actually take it out just like that, I'm sorry.
He's trying to do it. Do we want to do it? I'll ask him.
Pardon?
Lorna.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, Lorna.
Yes, Sandra, I was just going to echo your sentiments that it would be better if, Terry, if the community, your local community board made a submission to the bylaw to that effect with some rationale from your community on that.
Yeah, I think, Lorna, that they made submissions that they're going to continue to take that were made recently. I think there was one with 40 submissions or signatures to the submission that came through, and that was held over because they had to redo the bylaw. So that will be in consideration, won't it?
Yes, it will.
Yes.
So in there was some talk about the boat ramps, but it hasn't come out in the draft.
Thank you. And Gary?
You're on mute, Gary.
No, you wouldn't believe it. The lawn mowing people just turned up and I had to put the sound on. I couldn't believe it. But anyhow, they've just gone from around where I am. I know. Someone's trying to silence me. Now, as I see it, because I've spent a little bit of time reading this, we had the bylaws and a lot of what you put is sort of reflecting what has previously been the case for the bylaw we had up till 2000, put in 2014, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, now, when I look at it, I've actually got the maps and they don't tie in with the written word. And I can tell you I'm completely confused because there's ones mentioned here that are not mentioned in the paperwork and there's vice versa. And it really is very confusing. For example, in the paperwork, we've got Tairua-Pāuanui mentioned in two different places and like two separate parts. But the number C, which is the draft, the maps, it should, because that is conflicting with what you've got in the reports. And I don't want to be painstaking. I'm prepared to do this at a later stage and discuss it with you, but I'm quite confused because there's some things mentioned here that are not mentioned in the written word and vice versa, and they just don't tie in. So if you'd like me, I could bore you silly.
Gary, can I ask you, with your map, did the map come through with the bylaw?
Well, it was sent to me as part of it's referred to, this is referred to in your report, isn't it? Correct? Yeah. Well, it doesn't tie in at all. And it will take me a little time if you want me to go through it now. But all I'm saying is if you sit down and go through this and for example, I've looked at, well, it will take time. And I think people don't want to be sitting around this.
Let's just, Lorna.
Well, it's very, no, we really can't send this out until it's properly set
I
out.
understand that, Gary. We just, Lorna had a hand up with a response. So if we can just see what Lorna would say to that.
But no, thank you, Gary. We're aware about the maps and some of the documentation need to align. The maps are still being worked on and we can having that conversation with you over the next couple of days. I know Brian's regulatory team is working with Sian around the maps and they will be for public consultation. We'll be putting them out, but this is just at the moment we're aware that there may be some discrepancies. Brian and Sian, do you want to add anything to that?
Brian, did you want to add anything to that?
Not really. I would say that maybe just a quick question, Councillor, is your point that the map should be under the legal description, or are you happy with it?
Well, just the example is if you look in here, in the written one on page, oh gosh. Pāuanui Tairua is mentioned as a separate entity, but it's mentioned in two different places in here, and that's somewhat confusing. I'll find the pages if you like.
So previously we've had the maps in the schedules underneath the written text. I think Sean will be able to correct me. The written text trumps the maps regardless. So the process was to remove them and put them into a third schedule that makes it easier for the public to see and understand where camping areas are. They're more advisory, the maps. The written text would be the legal enforceable provisions, and certainly we do need to make sure that that those marry up. And if you want to touch on, we can go.
One of the problems I see is that, for example, it's got somewhere with a little blue mark put on the map. I have talked previously, if we're going to have consultation, we have to explain to people where this is proposed. We've talked of having maps and having a sign up saying this is where the proposed parking is going to be, because I'm totally confused when I look at this.
Yeah.
And I can tell you I've spent some hours on this, and the more I look at it, the more I see the problems that exist. So if it's not clear to me, I'm damn sure it's not going to be clear to people who are trying to do consultation. So we've got to get it right before we send it out.
So Brian was saying that it's what's written in the document is what's being consulted on. The maps are just a guide to give some indication of where these places are.
But they should match.
But here they are working to marry them up. So
look, whatever way you put it, nice terms or bad terms, it's a botcher. And until you get it right, I don't think it can go out.
No, I'm of the opinion the maps are important, as Gary's touching on, to the public. And that's a process that we, as Lorna's touched on, we need to get right before we go out for consultation.
So therefore we'll move we can still put the resolutions subject to map corrections.
Leslie does have her hand up, so she may have some.
So who's going to hand up? Leslie? Sorry, Leslie. Okay, got you. Leslie.
Good morning, everyone. We are happy to work with Gary to help him understand what the how the maps relate to the bylaw document, the text. As far as I could see, and I did check them, every single site that is in the bylaw, there is a map for. Tairua-Pāuanui may be mentioned twice because some sites are restricted and some sites are prohibited. They're two different schedules. But we're happy to work with Councillor Gottlieb to be able to understand, and I absolutely hear what he's saying about needing to be very clear for the public. There is one major change with the maps. Currently, we're showing in the restricted sites an area of red that says prohibited. We have changed that to restricted, and I think that Ari has a map that she could show you as an example of the change that's been necessary. But we will work through to be sure that every site in the bylaw has a map accompanying it to show people where they can and can't freedom camp.
Well, and my suggestion of, if we're going to can we put up a sign to show people where these parks will be, because then there's going to be no argument.
I'm not sure what you mean by sign, Gary. You mean a sign on the ground?
Yeah.
Well, they are signs.
I think what Councillor Gottlieb's getting is it has been raised that for consultation purposes, it would be good to have those signs up so that members of the public walk past and can see, like, here's where the new playground's going, or here's where the change to the freedom camping area is located. It's not the actual current enforceable signs, and we have had a discussion about that as a leadership team about how we better communicate consultation. This would be a bylaw that would have too many. We've got I don't know how many sites we would have.
Yeah, over 100.
That would be over 100 signs would be put out for consultation, but.
Impractical, Gary.
Nothing's
over 100
impractical.
signs.
But what I could recommend is that if there are areas that are of more high use that we or potentially contentious, we could have signs at those sites.
Okay,
Well, people are going, I've looked at some of those maps and I'm unsure where they're meant to be. And this is the thing that concerns me, and that may have an effect upon what people do in their consultation and say, well, I don't like that because that really is an important part and it maybe has a cultural aspect or something. And I have to say that I've looked at some, there seems to be different criteria for different ways that freedom camping's been approved or restricted or whatever, and I don't seem to see the same consistency.
okay, so in terms of the maps, Gary, Leslie will work with you on that. Otherwise, I think we're going to carry on selling.
I just want to go back, once we've sorted the maps, to what Terry said, because as a Thames Community Board, I acknowledge that we workshopped our sites. However, as we look at this written word, there's one or two things that we will probably want to submit on as well. And so what I'm saying is that, that community boards could well submit. However, I want to acknowledge that we did have it workshopped and now we're thinking again.
So hopefully the community, all community boards will workshop the freedom camping bylaw in the same manner that the Thames Community Board has. And I would expect that every community board will be making a pretty fulsome submission, having a very good understanding of the areas and making a pretty fulsome submission to the freedom camping bylaw, which includes the supporting argument for their position, given the requirements of the legislation. So, Martin.
So if we've got an area that's specified that we, as a community board, when we were workshopping it, noticed was actually factually incorrect.
Yes.
I'm assuming it seems to me we shouldn't go out to the public with it like that, because people will go, oh, geez, they don't even know, blah, blah, blah. There's an area that at least half of the area is in fact privately owned.
So you didn't communicate that already?
We did at the workshop.
We did at the workshop. And
Okay.
That's been passed on.
so it has been passed on and that will be, okay.
The workshops that we did with the community boards, all that information was fed into the final assessment. So
okay, it's just not in the draft. It's just not in the draft.
We didn't explain in detail in the draft what those steps were. That would have made it much.
And also just have one other question. So it talks about the parking control bylaw and saying that review is not going to be, was unlikely to be completed before the new freedom camping one is made. Do we have any sort of an idea when that parking control bylaw might be done?
Do you want me to talk about that, your worship?
I mean, potentially, that's for like off-street car parking.
So, like what we can see out the window. Yeah.
No freedom. Oh, my goodness, there is freedom camping.
Yeah.
So the work on developing a new parking bylaw has started.
Yep.
But yes, unlikely that it will be completed before this freedom camping bylaw is done. So it may be that when we get to look at some of the off-street parking, there might be some adjustments and we may need to make some changes to freedom camping after that.
Right.
Your worship, can I just provide a little bit of clarity between those two bylaws? So the freedom camping bylaw talks about the activity of sleeping in your vehicle overnight, compared to the parking of a motor vehicle, which is something that a freedom camping vehicle does as well. So if you, as you've just touched on, if you look outside at that vehicle, that won't be freedom camping right now. That would be a vehicle parked.
Yeah.
And so that's something we have to be really clear on when we're looking at freedom camping sites, that we are talking about the overnight camping element, not the parking of a vehicle in that location. And that would be something that will be addressed if there's an issue with the parking of a vehicle in a location through the parking control bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the two separate.
So that's correct.
So my question is degree of urgency and are we confident enough to put this out for public submission once a whole lot of things have been sort of clarified over the next couple of days? Or do we need to do more clarification and bring it back next month for release? That seems to be what we're talking about.
I think there's a degree of urgency about getting this out for public consultation. Any data can be amended through that process. Community boards can make substantive submissions to ensure that they've tidied off everything for their wards and got the best outcome for their wards based on the data and the rationale, the reasoning for the changes that they seek, because you have to have a robust reasoning in accordance with the legislation, or it won't fly in the courts if the Motor Banners Association decide to take us to court. They indicated that on the Buffalo Beach exclusion, and which in my view was completely not acceptable, because this is about communities making decisions for themselves based on their environmental, social and economic effects, and the harm that can be caused. So I think people need to think very carefully about this and have really good arguments when they bring their submissions through from community boards. So I think the sooner we put this out there for public submission, the better, because we should be doing it well before Christmas.
I've got another question if I can.
Yes, right. Terry.
So the issue we've also got in Whangamata, which was raised through some information coming back to staff, is that we've got a freedom camping area being prepared to take over another area which has been congested at the beach. But because it has not been completed, it won't go into this draft consultation period. So the difficulty is at the end of it, even though it should have been done 2 years ago, how do we get that back into the discussion? Do we have to wait to the end of this and put it in as a separate identity?
No, well, you just put it in through your submission. You make a comprehensive submission.
Even though it hasn't been constructed?
That's right.
Okay, yeah, that's good. We'll put it in with submission, absolutely.
Lorna, and then Martin.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, with the maps as well, because this is a draft consultation, we can get feedback on how they can be improved through the consultation, and that will help with the signage as well when we have the official Freedom Camping Bylaw go out. So there is that as well. In terms of the urgency, yes, there is some urgency, because we do want to get the bylaw taking effect before summer. So just in terms of being able to get up for consultation, understand the numbers of submissions, and then come back for deliberations and hearings, there is an urgency around that.
Absolutely. Martin.
So my other question is, I've seen sometimes out at Rhodes Park, so you have a whole line of vehicles there. If you're going in there sort of driving past late afternoon, obviously they're setting up for the Freedom Camp overnight. And then often the following morning, if it's Saturday, there'll be a whole lot of cars in there for rugby, and lots of those Freedom Camping vans will be gone. Does that just magically happen? Is there something that says they have to go if there's a rugby match on? The reason I'm asking that is that one of the areas in Thames, which we believed was incorrectly assessed last time to be prohibited, is now going to be opened up for 4 parks. And during the evening, if there's a particular performance on at that venue, then those 4 parks would be quite an imposition to the people attending that. So is there some way within the Freedom Camping Act, or the bylaw, that we can say, hey, we've got performance, this organisation has performances for a week from the 2nd of June to the whatever it is, and to actually prohibit it for a week or a fortnight or something? Is that an option?
You can change the restrictions on an individual site, so you can make them very specific to that site and put something in that limits the time that people are allowed to be there. But that would need to be in the bylaws, so you'd need to know that in advance. You couldn't do it, the week before.
You put your conditions in the bylaw.
So that would mean you'd have to know when the particular events were going to be. Oh, well, that doesn't.
Not necessarily, no. You could say that as a condition that when there are events within the specific area, there will be no freedom camping and signage will reflect that.
So you try and police that.
So yeah, that's going to be tricky.
I think
So my suggestion would be that you completely rethink that one. So that's it. But again, it comes back to your submission.
But we were just worried, and like you raised it before, we were just worried that because the score was clearly so completely wrong for that particular one to say it was prohibited, we thought, well, we've got to get this right or it could get challenged. But in getting it right, it's then thrown up this particular problem. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is.
Any other?
Yeah, just one thing that Sally mentioned, and it's a question for Brian. The thing that always makes me flex my my mind and go, how are we going to do this? Is how are we going to enforce these bylaws? Because we've got them every damn where. We just do not have the person power to enforce. And if we're going to end up having members of the public stepping in and people getting their faces punched, it's just that I have been involved with bylaw enforcement before, and if you ain't got the resources, it ain't worth the paper it's written on.
Well, Gary, it's no different now to what it has been. So we just do the best we can going forward.
Yeah, I can answer that. Councillor, we do fortunately have enough resource for the sites that we locate. So we have 6 bylaws officers, and they are local to their area. And freedom camping, fortunately, is a thing that happens. The patrol side of it happens early in the morning. So pretty much the first thing that they.
Okay, well, now I feel a lot happier. Thank you.
And probably the other point I'd make is, fortunately for this bylaw, because you've raised it before and I completely agree with you, this bylaw does have some teeth because their legislation provides some infringement powers, whereas other bylaws like activities of public places don't. So you're right, that's where there's a bit more confrontation, but this one is a little bit easier to enforce. And if I could just add to summarise Councillor Christie's point, I think consultation is really important. There is some urgency, but we do have to make sure that this is clear to get a good quality submission. And so what we're going to have to do is take offline the maps discussion that we've had, speak to Councillor Gottlieb and make sure that we can really identify that, and certainly staff will have to prioritise getting that clear before we go for public consultation.
As clear as can, yeah, without overdoing it. No, I appreciate that. Right, I'm now going to, I think we've had plenty of discussion. I'm going to put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
It's carried. Oh, sorry, Murray, did you have a comment? You're on mute.
No, I think he was putting his hand up.
Oh, you're putting your hand up. Right, oh, good man, thank you, carried. Excellent, we're now on to...
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. We're on to the last item of the day, 2.3, the supplementary item for the Kōpū business Kōpū business case, Kōpū Marine Precinct report. And can I just say that we had an excellent meeting with the Associate Minister for Local Government, Kieran McNulty, and I was very appreciative and really impressed by the Minister's interaction with ourselves as a council, and he'd been to 23 other councils, and I'd just like to formally thank him and his staff for what was an excellent meeting along with Waka Kotahi. So really good to see. So I'm just putting it out there. So 2.3, the supplementary Kōpū Business and Incentive Project paper. And it's basically an update from Lorna. And I don't know that we need to do anything in terms of resolutions, do we, Lorna?
Yes, you do. There are some resolutions in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could just, I'll take the report as read, and just since I presented at the last council meeting, just a couple of updates. The discussions with MB for the up to $1 million of funding is still being progressed. As I in the report, the government's in recess until middle of August, so we can't progress those discussions until August. But because of the tight timeframes now for signing of contracts with our key providers, we need to progress this. So we came to the Thames Community Board to discuss options. The board, as you're well aware, have put forward some TUGPRA money, and in their last meeting, Ari, I don't know if you need to put the Thames Community Board resolution up there from the last board meeting, but in effect, they have agreed to underwrite, I would say, that money until we can have further discussions with MB. And also there are other external funders that we can go to, including Regional Council for that Regional Economic Development Fund, and also there is Trust Waikato. It just gives us extra time that we can now over the next few months to look at that other $1 million worth of funding. We do need to get council endorsement of that today so that our CE can actually sign the contracts tomorrow, so we can actually buy material from China and get those contracts going.
So I'm happy to move the resolution.
Tony's got his hand up.
Okay, Tony?
Just it's clarity around the MB funding that the Thames Community Board has agreed to underwrite. So they've agreed to underwrite that on a local basis?
Yes,
that's correct.
Correct. I'll move the resolution.
Do I have a second to that? Martin? Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Oh, Murray.
No, he's putting his
Oh, no,
hand
you
up.
put your hand up again. Oh, okay.
It's a 3-second
All those
lag.
in favour, carried, thank you. So that concludes the business for today.
Can I just thank Lorna and your team around you and behind you for all the hard work. It's a really important day for us, and it is truly a shovel-ready project, and yeah, so thank you.
And we're heading out there now with our shovels.
I'll tell you, Lorna, you and your team have been working incredibly hard on this one, and it's 2 years plus. And along with the other projects, it's just it's a grind, but we are hopeful that we're just about towards the end of it. So we're keeping our fingers well and truly crossed. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's meeting. Thank you.